This was my artwork 10 years ago. Poorly lit, low-res stocks and less than perfect compositing. And this is my artwork now. In this video I'm going to show you the do's and don'ts of photo manipulation artwork and how to create high-level composites that most amateurs struggle to build, telling the fake in a believable way. What's happening, people? I'm Clinton Lofthouse, a professional photographer and digital artist from the UK, and you're tuned into photomanipulation.com. This week I'm going to tell you the do's and don'ts of photo manipulation. Most people learn by copying other artworks. It's how we all start until we start to grow a style of our own and start being original. But what if you are copying bad art? There's tons of it out there. We were all in the same boat at one point, so let me shine a light on some of these common mistakes. Our first don't is destructive editing. Destructive editing means you are changing the original source file, and after a certain point you may not be able to revert the source file back to its original form. This usually happens when your history panel has hit its limits, so some of your changes are permanent. Yes, permanent. Destructive editing can also apply to adding filters. If you do it in a destructive way, you cannot change the effect of the filter. For example, if you add Gaussian blur to your image, you're basically... Now I know this all sounds very scary, but you young whippersnappers have nothing to worry about because a long time ago Adobe came along with non-destructive editing, probably whilst you were being bottle fed and crapping in your nappy. Anyway, non-destructive editing meant we could add as many changes to our images as we wanted without ruining the original file, and we could add smart filters that let us change our filter at any point through our workflow without causing a complete meltdown. Yes, Adobe. If you have a look through the layers of this image, you can see that my layer stack is full of layer masks and layers that are clipped with adjustments. I have turned some layers into smart filters and applied blur to them. Let me show you a quick example of working non-destructive. So let's jump in and show you some non-destructive editing in real time. So let's say we want to add some blur to this guy. We wouldn't need to in this image, but let's just do it for example's sake. What if I wanted to blur him because I wanted the background to have some depth of field? So I would find the layer of the guy, so this layer here, and then what I would want to do is go to filter, convert for smart filters, and press OK. And then that will convert this layer to a smart filter. So what that means is we can apply things and adjust it at any time and turn it off also if we wanted to. So let's go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and then we can change it to, let's say, 5.6%. Press OK. And as you can see now, he's all blurred out. So if we went and did something else and then we thought, actually, I don't really like how that's looking, what you can do is you can come to your layers here and then you have some controls underneath. You can turn the Gaussian blur off and on. Or if you wanted to, you could say that blurs a bit too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it down a little bit. So let's go to 2.9. And as you can see, real time, it affects the image. And then we've lowered our Gaussian blur. And then if you wanted, you can also, which is another good thing about working on the destructive and using smart filters, is you can mask it off certain areas. So if I wanted to mask it off here, like so, I could just paint it. With my brush set to black, just paint it away from certain areas. So that's just some ways to edit non-destructively. There are plenty more, so just make sure you aren't destroying your original file. Once you get the hang of it, you'll never look back. Trust me. Let's move on to the do's and don'ts of using stocks in your image. What you don't want to do is use crappy stocks. And by crappy stocks, I mean low-res stocks, stocks where the aspect ratio is off, stocks where the angles don't match up, or stocks where the pose or the person just doesn't make sense in the image. I've seen all sorts of terrible stocks shoehorned into composites that have no right to be there. Let's take a look at my favourite Reddit board terrible book covers. Even though some of these can be quite funny, they're actually a great learning tool to identify what works and what doesn't work in photo manipulation. So like I said, some of these might be funny, but they are really good tools for learning. So we go down. So something like this, like straight away, you can tell they've got low quality stocks. It looks like they've used probably a Commons-free World War image here. They've got this CG render of some kind of elf woman. As you can see, when they've actually brought into the image as well, the aspect ratio is off. She looks like she's been squished in a bit. And then you have another kind of CG dragon here. So none of these stocks really work together. The one is obviously a photo, the other a CG, so you can kind of tell that as well. So let's do one more, and I'm going to choose this one here. Now, I'm kind of choosing the more extreme ones just so you can see. But for here, we've got this dinosaur, so this could be CG, or it could have been taken maybe at some amusement fair. We've got this quite bad CG building in the background, what looks like it's from a Sega Mega Drive game. And then we have this illustrated kind of painted volcano, sketched volcano. And then we have the moon and the sky. So again, none of these stock images work together. I mean, the dinosaur, it could be higher res, but you've got this very low res illustration in the background, and then you've got this low res CG one. And again, none of them fit together. Even if they were color matched, they would just look terrible. What you do need to use is high quality stocks. The higher the quality of the stock, the higher the quality your final artwork will be. When creating this image, I used a mixture of high-end stocks from Adobe Stock and photomanipulation.com, obviously. The main character is from the photomanipulation.com Power Pose pack, and it's being used in the Power Pose challenge. And the sky and the skulls and a few of the bits were sourced from Adobe. Most of the background was created using stocks that I shot on my travels. So in that background, there's parts of Scotland, Wales, and Yorkshire. I do urge people to learn how to shoot their own stocks, as it gives you a lot more freedom in what poses your model has and how you can build a library of background plates. If you do decide to do this, you will need a DSLR or mirrorless camera to make sure your images are high res. I shoot with a Fuji X-T3, but if you can't shoot your own photos, Adobe Stock and photomanipulation.com have got your back for high-end stocks. So we now know the do's and don'ts of photo stocks. Let's move on to the do's and the don'ts of lighting. And when I say lighting, I mean the background lighting and motivated lighting. When you create a photo manipulation, the lighting on every element needs to work together. There is ways to cheat, but there are also rules you have to follow. Usually, background comes first. Not always, but usually. So the lighting in your backplate is important because the light on your figure needs to match and work with the lighting in your background to blend seamlessly. If the light doesn't match, then you've failed. Motivated light is a term they use in filmmaking where they use a source of light that is fake to imitate natural light. In photo manipulation, we can do something similar to add interest to our image. For example, say we want our figure to stand out even more, we can add rim light. But if the background doesn't have any light source that would create rim light, it won't work. It might look nice, but people will wonder where the light is coming from. Remember, we are trying to sell the fake. All we need to do is composite a lamp or a neon light into our image, and then we have our motivated light source. Doing this will add realism to your image, and as photo manipulators, like I said before, we're always trying to sell the fake. So let's take a look at some of my old images and see where I went wrong with lighting in my early years, and all the other things that I got wrong too. So let's open the vaults and jump back into some of my old images. So this was one of my first composites here. So the model I shot at a studio in Bradford, and then the background was somewhere I went on the holiday. I think it was Lindisfarne Island. So I've kind of got the background matching the style of the girl in the front, but the light just doesn't work at all. Obviously, we've got window light coming in from the background here, as you can see. So what I wanted to do really is I should have lit the girl from this side. Kind of works a little bit, but I did burn this area at the front to match it up, and it looks all right. But again, if I'd have been planning beforehand, I would have thought, right, my background light is coming from here, from the window, so let's use a big softbox at this side of the model to light her and get the light matching down here, and then she would blend seamlessly with the image. So I just wanted to put this one in as well, just because I feel like this is when I was starting to learn more about lighting for photo manipulation. So I shot this girl here in her dining area on a cardboard box, actually. And because I knew the background's what I wanted it to be, I knew it was going to be natural light. So what I did is I got two flashes and I fired them up at the roof, so the light kind of falls back down naturally. onto her shoulders and her head like this. And we still got a little bit of fill as well in the shadows, just because when you're shooting up, it kind of lights everything because you're using a ceiling as basically as your modifier. And we got this nice soft light. And when I fit her into the image, she just seemed to blend quite seamlessly into this image. Like it looked like she should be there. Like this looks like natural lighting. Doesn't look too studio-like, like you've shot in a studio with some speed lights or some studio lights. It just looks very natural. So as you can see from my early works, all this is about practice. The more you practice, the better you get. Eventually all of this will become second nature and you'll have an artist's instinct. So that's it. That's the do's or don'ts of photo manipulation. That was only 3, so if you like this video, I'm happy to create more. You might like my last video on sci-fi lighting for composites, so be sure to check that out as well. Thanks guys. Peace!